What's good, YouTube? Ben here. Welcome to the next video on the channel. In this one, I'm actually going to do a redo of a video I did 2.5, 3 years ago. This is going to be my Zelda TierMaker list redone for 2024. Let's get into this. Right, so one of the earliest videos I did on my channel, I think it's actually my first video, if not one of my first, was a TierMaker list for all Zelda games. Zelda's my favorite franchise. I've played almost all of the games. There are a couple I have not played, which are going to go into the not played thing, so I'm not ranking them when I haven't played them. Why that's in there, I have no idea, because that hasn't even been released yet. But we're going to go through, and I'll give some ideas onto why certain games rank where, but I'm not going to take all day for you guys, because there are a lot of games to go through. I'll give, like, basic reasons as to why they're being placed where they are. But starting off with the original Legend of Zelda on the NES, this is a great classic game, albeit very difficult, and it's a very cryptic game because it's NES. For those who've played a lot of NES games like myself, you know, games like Castlevania and stuff are very cryptic. Doesn't give you an idea on where you're going, so your first playthrough is going to be met by a lot of confusion, unless, of course, you use YouTube to find your way around. In which case, sure, but that's kind of cheating anyway. But it's still a great game, good music, good graphics, good controls. I'm going to put it in B tier, only because it laid the groundwork for what Zelda games would become. But as a general game, absolutely fine. Adventure Link is the one that a lot of people love and hate. It's a side-scrolling one, you know, again, the sequel to the first one, but because they didn't have a baseline of what they were going to be doing, it's one of those situations where, like, they tried something different and it works. For me personally, it works. I like the game. I think it's a good game. Don't get me wrong. It's hard as anything. It's a really difficult game, but it's also really fun. So I'm going to throw it in B tier. It's definitely not like dumpster fire worthy or C worthy. Like, not a chance. Zelda Link to the Past, one of my most nostalgic games of all time. Love it. It was the second game I ever played, the first being Super Mario World. It is a very difficult game, but also a very good one. Very fun to randomize if you've not done that. I've also done a tutorial on how you can randomize this game, so if you want to check that out, it's on my channel. Solid music. One of my favorite Zelda games for music alone. Graphical quality is great, even to this day. It looks like it could be an indie game nowadays. For me, that's like an S tier. It's an absolute solid game. Link's Awakening, the original, I think it's a great game. It's graphically pretty dated because it was done for the original Game Boy, but overall, it's still a great Zelda adventure for those who have never played it. I mean, I would recommend playing the remake over the original nowadays for most people, purely because it's visually more pleasing, sound-wise it's more pleasing, plus getting it is also a lot more accessible than getting it on original Game Boy. But it's still a great game. I would put it in B tier. It's not a bad game at all. The Zelda CDI games just go in complete dumpster fire. They are, like, horrific. I'm gonna lump all three of them together because all three of them are terrible. These two are basically identical, except for the fact that in this one he plays Link, this one he plays Zelda. This one's just horrific. Honestly, for those who've never played these games, the Zelda CDI games, feel free to look up gameplay. I'll probably do a stream series on them at some point. But they are absolutely horrific. Like, they're just terrible. Graphically, they look bad. The cutscenes are cheesy. The voice acting's terrible. Gameplay sucks. Like, honestly, don't play the CDI games. They are full on dumpster fire. These I've never played, so I can't comment on them. Zelda Ocarina of Time is a media S tier. Like, what can you say that hasn't already been said about Ocarina of Time? Like, everything about the game is freaking awesome. Like, the only thing, I only have one complaint with Ocarina of Time, which is fixed with Majora's Mask, is the lack of side quests. There are basically two. You've got the Big Goron Sword quest line and the Happy Mask quest line, but that's it. So, other than that, it's a very linear game. Like, you just play through the story, and that's basically it. There's not much outside of the main story to keep you entertained, but the main story itself is fine. Like, the gameplay's awesome, the music is fantastic, the bosses are all great, despite the fact Jabu Jabu is one of my most hated dungeons in all of Zelda. Not because it's hard, but because it's tedious. Like, I prefer Water Temple to Jabu, which a lot of people find weird, but it is what it is. Like, for me, it's the perfect package, other than the lack of side quests. Majora's Mask is an instant S tier. It's my favorite game of all time. Like, I love Majora's Mask. Like, in my top 10 Zelda games, like, Majora's Mask is first, OOT second. I love both. Both are fantastic, but Majora's Mask does do the one thing that Ocarina of Time doesn't do, and that's it adds a lot of side quests, a lot of side stuff to keep you entertained, rather than just doing like a linear progression story. But both are fantastic, and both are some of my favorite games of all time. Like, music wise is great. The game has a difficulty element. The time based mechanic for me adds pressure, which I enjoy that pressure. I don't know, it just, for me, it makes a more well rounded game. And the mass transformations, oh my god, are fantastic. They all control great. I mean, despite the 3D version, which we're going to get into because that's also in this list and I hate it, but still. Right, the Zelda Oracle games. I'm going to link them together because they're basically the same with a few minor differences. They're decent games. Like, I really wish these would get remakes. If they got remakes, you know, or I don't know, Nintendo, like if you could remake A Link to the Past and like Link's Awakening remake, that'd be great. Sorry if I'm going off camera, it's because I'm talking directly into my microphone. You know, just Nintendo, you need to listen to that, clearly. But the Oracle's games are great. They're very similar to Link's Awakening in the way they play. Puzzle mechanic wise as well. It's your traditional kind of Zelda game with good music, solid gameplay. Like, if they got remakes, it'd be even nice. They're gonna go and B tier. Like, they're decent games. They're nothing too crazy. They're decent. Ocarina of Time Master Quest. So that was released on the GameCube as a pre-order bonus with Wind Waker, I believe. Master Quest is the same as normal Ocarina of Time. The only difference is the dungeons are remixed to make them a heck of a lot harder. But overall, it's the exact same game as OOT. It's S tier. Even the dungeons, whilst they are more annoying, are definitely a challenge, and I enjoy that. But they are infinitely more annoying. So if you've never played Master Quest, go into it with the fact that the dungeons are going to be a lot more annoying. You'll enjoy it. Zelda Four Swords. So this is original Four Swords on the Game Boy Advance. I'm going to put this in B tier. Now, I do like Four Swords. It's great. However, in order to play the original Four Swords, you needed 4 people with 4 Game Boy Advance, 4 link cables. Sorry, 2 link cables. No, was it 2? No, it was 2 link cables the way box thing. I've played through normal Four Swords. It's great. It's like minigame based. It's not so much Zelda adventure based. But overall, it's a great game. It's just, it's hard to play it. Most people haven't played it for that reason. Zelda the Wind Waker is going to go in S tier. Like, I love Wind Waker. I think as, you know, following up from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask was going to be a challenge. I do feel as if they kind of went in the right direction with something completely different, because then, of course, it made Twilight Princess that came out later much more awesome, because it's what people wanted for a follow-up to Majora's Mask Ocarina of Time. But Wind Waker to me is still fantastic. Like, dungeons are great. I enjoy all the dungeons. The overworld exploration with the boat is nice. Don't get me wrong. They fixed it in Wind Waker HD, which I don't see in the list. So I'm going to lump this together. Oh, no, I do. No, Wind Waker HD is not in the list. So with it not being in the list, which I find weird because, like, MM3D is, but whatever. I'm going to, like, say basically, like, it's great. Like, for those who've never played Wind Waker, play it. Honestly, you'll have a good time. Zelda Four Swords Adventures, I'm lumping that into S tier. I loved Four Swords Adventures. This is a Four Swords game you can play on your own or with a second player on GameCube. You can also play it with up to 4 people as well if you had 2 Game Boy Advances that you connect to the GameCube. But honestly, really great game. It takes the minigame mechanic of the original Four Swords and just makes it so you can do it solo or with as many people as you really want to. You don't need 4 people or even 3 people or even 2 people to play. You can do it all on your own. I'm planning on doing a Let's Play series for this, either as a normal video series or a stream series at some point in the future. So stay around for that. But I will be doing that. Zelda the Minish Cap is really good, albeit it is very what I like to term bullshit in some places. It's still a great game, and I still enjoy it. I did a stream series, Let's Play series of it not too long ago, about 6 months ago. It was really fun to do, but it was still kind of bullshit in places. I'm going to put it in B tier. I used to put it higher up until the point, like, the game is extremely cryptic. And for a game that comes out in, like, 2002, like, don't get me wrong, I don't want my hand held through the entire game, but at the same time, like, some things are just next to impossible to find unless you look it up. It's ridiculous. It's really cryptic for this era. But overall, it's a great game. Like, the dungeons are fine. The gameplay mechanics are absolutely fine. But but it's one of those where the hell do I go kind of games. Like, you really have to talk to every NPC after every stage of anything in order to go anywhere. It's wild. Good game, but really, really annoying and hard. Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land is a C-Tier. It's like a weird mini game. It's hard to describe. I played it once. Like, I've played it, so technically I have to rank it. It's not a dumpster fire by any means, but it's like a weird mini game, puzzle game where you play as Tingle. I'd skip it. It's not great from what I remember, but I don't remember it that well. Twilight Princess is S tier. I've noticed I've not put anything in A tier yet either. We'll get to that. Twilight Princess is fantastic. It's the sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask that people wanted, but not what they got. This obviously was the sequel to Wind Waker. Now, I love Twilight Princess, albeit it has my least favorite dungeon in all of Zelda in it, which is Lakebed Temple. I hate that dungeon with a passion, but overall, everything else is great. The overworld's fantastic, albeit Hyrule feels a little bit empty. But it's still great. Like, it's honestly fantastic. It's the sequel that we should have gotten, but the sequel that we got is just as good anyway. If you've not played Twilight Princess, I'd recommend it. Great game. I did a Let's Play series for it last year, which is still on the channel, video series, so go ahead and check that out if you want to see me do a full playthrough. I don't know what that is. Phantom Hourglass is dumpster fire. I hate that game. For those who have watched my streams of Zelda Brandos or whatever, I've mentioned it when people ask, like, what's my least favorite Zelda game? Phantom Hourglass. I hate it. I hate the controls. The touchscreen controls for me are brutal when there's a perfectly good D-pad that we could have controlled Link with. I hate the fact that you have to keep constantly going back to the Temple of the Ocean King to do anything, and the fact you have to keep replaying floors is so redundant and monotonous. I'm sorry, but that game should not have been made. Or at least if it was made, they should have fixed a lot of the random backtracking, the fact that the controls are kind of crappy. Like, legit, it's just touchscreen movement. No thank you. Like, let me play with a D-pad and I'll be more than happy to play it. But honestly, big freaking dumpster fire. I hate that game. Link's Crossbow Training is also a dumpster fire. It's like a stupid gimmick game on the Wii. You basically use the Wii Zapper thing and you shoot things. It's boring, monotonous. You literally, once you've played it for 20 minutes, you've seen the whole thing. There's no point. Just don't bother with it. I don't know what that is. Spirit Tracks I will put in C tier. Spirit Tracks is actually an okay game, despite the fact, again, it has the weird motion controls. It doesn't have the same kind of backtracking elements that Phantom Hourglass has. I can tolerate Spirit Tracks. I cannot tolerate Phantom Hourglass. But it's generally a better game than Phantom Hourglass for me. Like I said, despite the fact that the controls, I don't like the touchscreen movement controls. I just find them really inaccurate, more annoying, and more of a hindrance than anything else. I enjoy the rest of the game. The game itself is absolutely fine. So if you've not played Spirit Tracks, I would recommend trying it. Albeit if you're not a big fan of touchscreen controls to move, then you're going to hate it. But it's not a bad game overall. Ocarina of Time 3D, I'm going to throw that in A tier. So it's a really solid remake. I enjoy the fact that they added in like replayable boss fights. If you want to practice bosses, you can do that. Performance itself is great and the game itself looks good. They don't take any real big liberties with the remake. All they do is add to stuff and not remove stuff, which is great. The reason it's going in A tier and not S tier is purely because it is a remake. Like, it does well enough to capture the essence of the original. But there is one thing that marks it down for me, and that's the touchscreen controls. So, like, what I mean is, in normal OOT, you get 3 C options for items. In this, you get 2 buttons and then 2 touchscreen buttons to hold items. So you do get 4, however, 2 of them are touchscreen only, which marks it down a little bit for me because I prefer to have just 3 that are physical buttons, which the randomizer for the 3DS version fixes, which is nice. But overall, the other changes they made are great, like making stuff like Iron and Hover Boots keyable to those buttons and not stuff that you have to, you know, keep turning the pause screen on and off for is great. Skyward Sword, this is going off the original, not the remake. I'm going to put it in B tier. It would be higher. It's a decent game and I really enjoy it, but the Wii Motion Plus controls ruin it. I've not played the remake, so I can't comment on the remake, but the original's B tier. We're also going really, it's like 15 minutes in already. We've still got a few left to talk about. A Link Between Worlds is a A-tier game. I'd say it's really solid. Like, it's a solid spiritual sequel to A Link to the Past, with a really interesting mechanic where you go in and out of walls. I enjoy it. Overall, it's a solid game. Hyrule Warriors, I'm going to put in C tier. I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, it's Dynasty Warriors with Zelda skin. Like, I would probably mark these higher. I'm going to put Age of Calamity in there as well. Like, I'd mark these a lot higher if they had online play. They have co-op, couch co-op. They don't have online play. Give me online play, they go instantly into A tier because I get a lot of fun out of them. Majora's Mask 3D is a dumpster fire. I don't care what anyone says. I hate that remake. They took way too many liberties, changed too much stuff to make no sense whatsoever. It's not as good as like OOT 3D. It's just not. It's garbage. Don't play it. Play the original. Triforce Heroes is dumpster fire. Other random players online ruined this game for me. Could have been really good, but online players ruined it. Picross I've not played. Breath of the Wild is A tier. I love Breath of the Wild. Although with Tears of the Kingdom, which I'm going to put up there now in S tier, this felt like more of a tech demo for what Tears of the Kingdom was going to be. The thing with Breath of the Wild is I love the exploration, the free roaming aspect. Same with Tears of the Kingdom. But with Breath of the Wild, I hate the Divine Beasts as dungeons. To me, they don't feel like the traditional style, or at least an evolution of the traditional style. They felt boring. Whereas with Tears of the Kingdom, they have a cross between the Divine Beasts and the traditional style, making them really fun to do. Cadence of Hyrule C tier, like, it's not really a Zelda game. Like, it's an indie game with a Zelda skin. It's completely different. It's a decent game, it's just not a decent Zelda game. Link's Awakening Remake is going to go in A tier. That's fantastic. Like, really solid remake. I've enjoyed my playthrough of it. I feel like, you know, it's a decent remake. I wish Nintendo would remake A Link to the Past in that style, but is what it is. But this is what I would pretty confidently call my Zelda tier list for 2024. Don't forget, I do live stream as well. Thank you for watching this video. When I go live here on YouTube and over on Twitch and on TikTok all at the same time. My streams here on YouTube are more for mobile, so for the shorts form feed. But if you want to see the exact same streams at the exact same time in full 1080p, then go ahead and join me on Twitch and TikTok. Those links are down below. Don't forget as well, on TikTok, I do exclusive videos, so follow me over there. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.